We're the quails from San Francisco, California. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, for real.
Thank you so much.
Sometimes people are doing art that is really important for the handful of lives that it's going to touch deeply. But it's not necessarily touching a large number of people. And so for that reason, you can't rent a hall that costs $100 a night. If it's going to happen at all, it's going to happen somewhere where it's free. And then there's also that whole thing about community and it not being about commerce or enterprise at all. It's just about people being together, having fun or participating in a like-minded endeavor and trying to change the world.
My name's Themba. I live at the RedHouse. Lived here for 2 years, maybe a little bit more. I don't know, something like that. Probably die here.
All right. My name is Rachel Marie Carns. I am a musician and a graphic designer. That's how I make my money.
I'm Bob James. I'm a maintenance technician for Camco Properties. That's K-A-M-C-O and Camco Construction. Our owners bought this place, I believe, 8 years ago. And I've been working on the house for that entire time.
My name is Kanako Wynkoop. I own Dumpster Values. I started it in 1996. It's a resale clothing store in downtown Olympia. I'm in a band with Nora, and themba, and Matt and Heather, called Liarbird. That's my musical outlet.
My name is Calvin Johnson. I work here at Dub Narcotics Studio, making some records. We release them through K.
Rockstars is a company that I started 13 years ago, and the main thing we do is put out records and CDs. I mean, we do some other stuff, but that's the main thing. There's 7 people who work here right now. We've put out 200 and something records, so an average of about 15 records a year.
The RedHouse is a building located in downtown Olympia, on the edge of what was once a neighborhood. It's situated near a lot of what were the warehouses district of downtown, and just south of what we used to call Swantown, which was the sort of seedy waterfront area. Most of the houses are gone from that neighborhood. There's only a few left, and the RedHouse is one of them.
Well, when I moved into the RedHouse, it was red. So it was the RedHouse because it was red.
This house was so beautiful red. It was red for like 25 years, forever. Like, it was just like the big red house on the corner that you could see from practically, you know, clear across town all over the place. And the garage was red, and like the paint was always peeling, and it just looked really cool. It's a good color. Totally beats gray.
I'm the guilty party of the gray because I chose the color. I decided that Cape Cod gray would be an appropriate color for the style of the house. Yeah. And we decided to do the gray with white windows because of because of the style of the home. It's kind of a Cape Cod style home, so that's why I chose that color. And that's an oil-based deep penetrating stain that's on there.
It's been a house where over the last 10 or 15 years people have been living in a more or less collective group house kind of situation.
My best guess would be that the RedHouse dates from about 1990 as the entity that we know it now. One of the cool things about the RedHouse that makes it really special too is that it not only was a house full of people, but in its basement at various times it's had a recording studio or a performance space that, and so that's part of what's cool about it too. So over the years people have seen a ton of good shows and other kinds of performance there.
The space, we try to make it open for anybody in the community that wants to use it. We've had Bands Against Bush meetings here. We did a really cool anti-capitalist puppet show, Shadow Puppeteers from Ashland, slideshow on squats in Barcelona. We just try to make it a community space because that's what this town is lacking. It was really cool to have free radio here because we had people coming and going all the time with all kinds of different musical tastes, and the house felt pretty alive. There were lots of music shows, lots of news shows, a couple talk shows, and simultaneously it's acted as a workspace for, well, there have been workshops here on all sorts of different things. It's also been a workspace for lots of screen printing projects. I don't know, all sorts of creative things happen in these walls.
All right, we're the Honey Troof from Oakland, California, Washington, D.C. Thanks a lot, everyone, for coming out, and thanks to the RedHouse.
It was, like I say, it was a band house. When we first bought it, it was a band house.
It is a bit isolated from its neighbors in such a way that it's possible to make some noise there with bands practicing or bands playing, and over the years the residents have taken advantage of that situation and organized performances and things there but in that way it has been, in a sense, a social center of a certain type for Olympia. There's been different kinds of movie watching events, spoken word events, poker parties, recording sessions.
Thank you.
It's a very good location for it, because and like I say, you've got this heavy cement walls downstairs, very limited windows, so it kind of keeps the sound inside. That makes it cool. So it makes sense it's been a band house for a long time.
People who are involved in music in Olympia have lived there from different bands.
I heard when I was living here that it used to be a logging house, that the kitchen and the room next to the kitchen, which is now Joey's room, was the dining area or something.
It was, I think it's built in like 1901, and it was over by on Capitol campus, and I think it was put on a horse-drawn carriage and moved over here.
The RedHouse used to be a farmhouse, like out in Little Rock or something, and they like picked it up and moved it there. And apparently, for a while, it was like a whorehouse. And then after that, it was like a house for prostitutes that didn't want to be prostitutes anymore. Like, it was like this halfway house thing. Yeah, really interesting history.
The intentions of the owner is that if it ever becomes vacant, to pretty much strip it down on the inside, which is not up to fire code for today's standard. Probably redo all the electrical and plumbing completely again. Just bring it up to current codes, and then it'll be sheetrocked to meet fire code and insulated to meet current codes.
It was so cheap to live here. It was like, I think I paid
My rent
$75 for my
was
room,
like
maybe.
$70, $100 or less the whole time that I lived here. When I moved in anyway, there was already a lot of resources in the house, like musicians in the house, artists in the house, with random amps in the house, random equipment that got left here, like who knows where it came from, just like tons of stuff, like a bike, just like it was like a big free box or something. And at that time also there were a lot of free boxes in town, like among all the punk houses. Everybody had a free box, and so you'd see your clothes circulating around town, you'd see your books that you left in the free box circulating around town. It was kind of like this self-sustaining trade and barter economy or something that was pretty cool.
The thing with the RedHouse just made it so easy. Yeah, I don't really know how I would have done it otherwise, because I started making enough money living in such a cheap place that I could buy better stuff, and if I had to pay rent on a separate space, even now it's like I live in the studio basically. I don't know how people do it, having a separate space and having a place to live,
It's a lot easier to be self-employed here than it is in a lot of places because the cost of living is so low.
When you don't have to, slave away 40 to 60 hours a week making a living, you have that much more time to be creative and make stuff.
It's kind of incredible how many amazing bands have practiced in the basement, not just performed for basement shows, but just so many. The jam room kind of felt like the heart of the house, and there's constantly music playing. There's always bands practicing or people just down there jamming out. This is the house that I learned how to play the drums in.
When Tim Green was living in the garage, he had an 8-track, half-inch 8-track set up in there, and I think in '92 we were recording the Tiger Trap album, and we went into Tim's studio there to record for a couple days.
I brought out a reel-to-reel 4-track with me from DC, which I used to record bands there with, And the first thing that was done there was me and Calvin recorded Tiger Trap in like 92, maybe like October 92. And I started doing some more 4-track stuff, like I recorded God at Silo and that band Hoover from DC and some unwound stuff. And then Pat Malley was going to sell this 8-track that he had, and Vern had just moved into the RedHouse, was living in the basement, so he decided to buy it, and he would let me use it, and in return I would record bands that he would put out on his tape label, Fuck My Vitamins. So that's how that started happening.
I recorded my spoken word, my solo album there when Tim Green had his studio there. And I think Sue Fox recorded her solo album there too. And and my band, The Punks, in its first incarnation, had our practices there.
I wasn't charging very much. At first, like I would just be like, give me like $40 or $50 to do whatever. And it was like that for a while. Like I think like that first Sleater Kinney record, maybe $50, $60 for like 4 days or 5 days. And same with some other bands, Cake and Giant did some recording.
The point of a bar or a club is to make money, basically. Like if you're a bar, you're trying to get people in to buy liquor. If you're a club, which is like an all ages club, it's much harder to do. You need to make money to do sound. You need to make money to do promotion. You need to make money to pay your rent. You need to make money to pay your insurance. You need to make money to pay, whatever else. There's a million expenses. Your long distance bill for booking bands or booking shows, all these things. And if you just strip that all away and you just use your basement to do all that, all of a sudden, all of these things that are not viable financially in the grand scheme of capitalist America become viable. And that's amazing because it opens up all sorts of avenues of creativity. It gives encouragement to bands that won't get booked at a club because they can't bring in 300 people that pay $5 a piece so that they can pay the however much hundreds of dollars overhead that they need to pay every night. And at a house show, all of a sudden there's a venue for really experimental things.
There is a need for a live performance space in Olympia that often exceeds the audience for live performances. And because many times the economic scale of the performances are such that they can't really exist within a commercial framework, many times house shows are the best solution, which is convenient because it also provides an atmosphere for the performances that is more informal and friendly, and can engender a more exciting performance for the performers and the audience. And another issue that can come up with live performance is that a venue might be a venue that serves alcohol, and that can restrict the audience. So house shows are a good solution.
It's outside the system, and it's magical things can happen in a basement show that can't happen in a bar. It's like the same way things can't happen in a mall. Like Bars sometimes are really controlled environments. Also, it's usually cheaper free. Yeah, it's much more intimate, much more personal, and yeah.
In touring the U.S., especially for shows that are all ages, sometimes the only option in a town would be to play in someone's house or their attic or their basement or their yard. And often we found that those kinds of shows can be more fun than a traditional venue, just because it's looser and people are more there to have fun, specifically, or they're really there to see the performance itself, as opposed to being in a bar and just drinking and not even noticing that there's a band playing.
Some of the most amazing shows I've ever played in my life have been at houses, and usually in small towns. There's just something about it, you know, that people come out and they have a really good time. And
to be able to go into someone's home and see bands playing that have been traveling, you know, far from New York or wherever, from England or Japan, or, you know, even if it's just from Centralia. Like, it's really cool that kids can pull up in their vans and pour out and go into someone's basement and set up and eat some food with whoever's living at that house, and then, you know, meet the kid that brings the PA that he's letting them borrow, and then, like, play with some local bands and, like, oh, they sucked, whatever, or oh my God, the local bands were rad and I totally want them to play in my house when they come and, you know, come through my town.
you don't need to go out and pay $10 to the bar downtown to get your entertainment. You can make your own entertainment, and you can create this really vibrant and alive alternative world. It's awesome.
Resistant subcultures have always existed everywhere.
This community that exists in all these towns all over the place, I don't know how it would exist without punk houses, you know. Just the other day when we were talking about punk houses in Olympia, there's been so many. I mean, like, we could name, I think we named like 30 of them or something like that, you know, at least. So, and it's like that in every town.
I think one of the most amazing things about the RedHouse is it's part of the network of houses and warehouses and show spaces and art spaces all over the country. And I think that's amazing. You can go to any town and there's some house, like the RedHouse or the Track House, or, you know, whatever it is.
These houses can go on and on and on, where people move out and people move in and people move out, so that over the course of a decade, hundreds of different people might have lived in the house, and most of them being artists or people who are involved in the arts. And I mean, and it's not just that people join together to have these houses for financial reasons, because it's cheaper to rent a room than to have a whole house, but also the social aspect of it. You'd rather live with other people who are so involved with art and music. It just seems like it's really sustaining in a way.
And it's a pretty incredible network of people who are all supporting themselves and each other outside of a mainstream economy and outside of mainstream ideas of what you can and can't do with your house and with your art or your music. It's really unbelievable. It's supportive.
One of the reasons that the Olympia community has such a thriving, independent, underground music scene and just DIY culture kind of stuff is because the cost of living is so affordable. To be able to live in a house and pay $100 a month means you only have to work, you know, at a minimum wage job 4 days a week. So I think having a house like this place that's totally affordable, even though it's kind of a dump, it encourages like free time. And free time, you know, can be, you can do anything with your free time. You can play video games, you can get stoned, or you can get wasted, or you can, I don't know, write a zine, or pick up a guitar and learn how to play, or hang out with your friends. or get politically involved. I mean, but all those things can't happen if you're working, 45 hours a week and you're just beat. The cost of living here is skyrocketing really fast, and I think that's going to drastically affect the way, it's totally going to affect the scene in that sense.
It's like I just know to the core of my being that this stuff is important because I know it changes lives because it changed my life.
Lived at the RedHouse and I